She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock. We're recording this 2:30 your time, 4:30 my time. Beth, as an intermittent faster, have you opened your feasting window yet?
I have not opened yet. I am looking forward to it, though.
Isn't that the funnest part of your day? Of knowing that you're going to get to eat something delicious really soon. What have you mapped out for today?
For today, well, almost every day, it's steak.
Yeah, right. Word.
Which is my favorite right now.
Yeah.
It's usually steak, some kind of vegetable, maybe two. I've heard you've gone carnivore,
yeah,
though.
Pretty much steak all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to be steak all the time. But we usually have two vegetables, and then we will have some kind of dessert, and depends on what it is. But I love these little popsicles that are actually all fruit.
Oh, good. So you're reminding everybody that in an intermittent fasting lifestyle, you get to eat delicious foods that you desire at the time of day that you choose.
It is all about choice with intermittent fasting. It's brought about so much freedom for me.
Yeah, freedom is definitely the word I think of about fasting. When did you start? And if you tell, what was your weight then? Or how much have you lost since then?
So I started in the middle of 2020 when there was no social activity. So it was great for me.
Yeah.
And I was actually looking for a way to trim down my migraines or get rid of migraines.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
That was it. And it was the middle of July. And I kept coming up with fasting. And I thought, Lisa, that cannot help with migraines. There's no way. That seems ridiculous. Because I'm the kind of person that gets a migraine if I don't eat. But it kept coming back and I kept praying, oh my gosh, this cannot be the answer. And I realized, why not just try it? Because if it's the answer, awesome. And if it's not, no harm, no foul. I still have the migraines. I don't have them anymore.
Were you Googling how to get rid of headaches and it recommended fasting? How did you make that connection so early?
That is a really great question, and I don't have the answer. I wish I did, because I was just praying about it, and I just kept Googling, and I honestly don't recall what I was Googling, or if it was a question about how to get rid of migraines. It definitely wasn't about weight loss. It was all about migraines. So I made an assumption that I probably said something about how to get rid of migraines.
Mm-hmm. And of course, these things remind us too, Jen Stevens so famously coined the phrase that fasting is a health plan with a side effect of weight loss. And you, I guess, have seen the side effect of that weight loss, I would assume, because you're slim and trim. You may have been slim and trim then.
Well, actually, I had gained quite a bit of weight over the course of the years, and I was at my top weight, which was right around, well, I stopped weighing myself at 158.6. And I'm only 5'2" and a little bit of hope. So just to give perspective.
Yeah.
But I've lost about 35 pounds over the course of 1 year. Actually, 1 year to the day, I had lost about 35 pounds.
Then how did you rip the Band-Aid off, or did you slowly walk into a, long feasting and shorter fasting plan?
Well, I figured it wasn't going to work. So
That's a way to believe in it.
Yeah. I just ripped the Band-Aid right off, and I went right into 20 hours because I realized, hey, wait, it's like 8:00. I haven't eaten since 6. I'm going to start today on July 18th. And the next day I didn't eat until whatever 20 hours was, and ripped that Band-Aid right off. And then I tried to sabotage myself, which was super fun. I ate every bad thing you can possibly think of in those 4 hours.
Yeah, I did too, because I was told you could eat what you want.
Right. I misinterpreted that, yes.
No, but you did, and you saw success, but I think what it showed me was those things were really crappy for me. And I felt better eating steak or something that God made, not that was made, at the donut factory, whatever.
That happened very quickly for me. I recognized that I really can't eat whatever I want in those 4 hours. So I decided to mellow out a little bit and not go to Chick-fil-A every day.
Yeah.
And ended up going right into the steak and veggies, etc.
That was good. That was real good.
Probably within the first 3 weeks. So
I'd like to take this moment to tell people that you are not a part of the CIA or FBI, that beeping behind you, that must be some I know you work in a business that buys and sells things, so that's probably some type of scanner.
yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I actually work in the same office with my husband, and he is actually over there scanning away and doesn't realize that.
Which is fine because you could have a plug for your business. You have like I have somebody here in Little Rock, but you have beautiful luxury handbags that you sell at really good prices. Isn't that one of your businesses?
Yes. So we just opened actually in the middle of downtown Portland called the Luxury Exchange, and we do high-end handbags, Rolexes, very high-end jewelry, estate jewelry. And that just opened actually 2 days ago.
Oh,
and then we have locations all up and down the Willamette Valley as well. And I'm sitting in what we call our flagship, which is in Salem.
We can even take this time. He can bring a bag over you can show. Of course, by the time we air this, it'll probably have been sold because people know if you can get your hands on a well-priced Louis, Chanel, Fendi, Hermes, whatever you sell. But you definitely can pimp your products during this podcast since I'm taking up your time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I don't have any with me because Adam can go down and probably grab a bag or two. But it is definitely one of the favorite things I do in my life is pimping handbags.
I know. Isn't that fun? Okay. So you started at 158 and some change or something like that. And then you lost 35 pounds, as we've established on my podcast. Journalists don't do math, but that puts you someplace in the 120s.
Yes. So, 123 was my goal weight, and I've just stuck there. So, without any effort.
Okay. Was that the weight you were before you had babies or got married or was in college? Like, where did you get that number?
That's a really good question, too, because I always wondered how I came up with that. And I realized recently how exactly that number was stuck in my head. When I was a kid, I grew up, my mom always had that perfect plate of food. We always had the meat, veggies, carbs. And I was not a fat kid. I was a normal, average sized kid, all the way into college. And up until I had kids, I was between 109 and 114. But after I had kids, I really started to gain weight and was consistently in the high 130s. And so I think what happened, I think the reason I chose 123 as my goal weight was because I really knew that during the course of that 25 years that I'd been I considered myself overweight. I had not been able to get down into the 120s any of that time. It didn't matter if I did keto, if I worked out like a crazy lady doing cardio, or if I worked out doing any kind of high intensity workouts. I could only get to about 128, and then I dropped down to 124 and pop right back up into the 130s. So I think the reason I chose 123 was because I knew that I had gotten to 124 working really, 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 really hard. So why not make it 123 just below where I thought I would hit?
Yeah. That's really encouraging. You know, you hesitated when you were trying to say that in the upper 150s, you dipped your toe into trying to not offend someone saying you were overweight. But you and I know you were insulin resistant, if anything. And when you're and when you're insulin resistant, you're unhealthy. It really doesn't matter what you weigh. And the reason I know you were insulin resistant is when you started changing the amount of hours in the day you released your insulin, you reduced your insulin the other days, the other hours, your weight dropped. So I know now you're probably insulin sensitive. So we have somehow, by the time we're airing this, it had been months, but I saw where whoever does the BMI chart is now changing even the BMI chart because people are getting fatter and fatter. And I know also, it's terrible. No, it's terrible. It's accommodating people because now we've turned somehow this discussion into fat shaming. We're not fat shaming. We're saying your life is being shortened by high insulin. And again, you weighing what you weighed you were insulin resistant. That is what we should be chasing, not, the number on the scale is fun. And you might even drop below that, or you might pop up a little higher, but I bet your fasting insulin is good. Have you had that checked lately?
I have not had it checked.
That's a good barometer. I listen to Why We Get Sick by Dr. Bickman. Like some people listen to their favorite Beyonce song. Like I turn it on in the car and listen again because his facts are so good. And him just saying, I was listening again to one of the chapters at the end. We need to have our fasting insulin, at 5 or 6 is optimal. You need to start checking it because your glucose is just one cog in the wheel, and that fasting insulin can give you a 10 to 20 year predictability on whether or not you get type 2 diabetes, maybe dementia, maybe cancer. So, we need to start focusing on those things, and that's how we know we're healthy. Tell me some
Absolutely.
things. So you eliminated, as you were getting slimmer and back to your bikini body, you were also reducing your headache load. What else changed in your health?
The headache load was huge for me because I was having them so often and for days at a time. And in the last 2 years, I've had 3, and I know they were triggered by red wine. So that's huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
But I knew I was insulin resistant because I started fasting and a ton of my skin tags went away.
Oh.
And another really interesting and unique thing that happened for me is I had always been really sensitive to the sun, and the dermatologist had said that I was allergic to the sun. And what would happen if I went out in the sun is I would get this terrible rash, and it would last for weeks.
Really?
And,
wow.
Yeah. And that's gone. I haven't had any issues with that since I started fasting at all.
And it wasn't the lupus butterfly shaped rash on the face or anything?
Nope. It was on my hands and my feet usually. And it could go all the way up my arms if I didn't pay attention and prep for being in the sun.
Isn't that interesting? So your insulin resistance even contributed to that because you're blonde and blue-eyed, I think, right? You're light-eyed or green-eyed.
Yeah.
So you are more sun sensitive, but I don't think God created any of us to be allergic to the sun.
No. No, I used to get teased by my family because they could all tan really well, and I'd walk out and be in the sun for hours, and I'd come back in and they'd say, "Wow, you bleached a little more," because I couldn't even tan.
Oh, bless.
So now I can actually tan and retain a tan, which is crazy to me, and totally not what I experienced in my life prior to being 50.
Yeah. Wait, have you hit 50 yet then?
I actually just turned 51. So, 51 and a half, I guess.
This will, we know that this helps with hormone balancing too. As you get, go through perimenopause, which I would assume you're probably there. Some people do go through menopause earlier. But have you had any hot flashes or any of the things that people talk about, and maybe those things have lessened?
I don't know if I actually am experiencing that because what I have experienced is so slight. So I will sometimes get up in the middle of the night and think, did I have night sweats? Is that, I'm not quite sure if I'm there. I don't know if the fasting has allowed me to have less severe symptoms than what people normally experience. But I would say that that's the only thing that I've experienced so far. Though my sleep is great, which was improved with fasting. So my sleep in general is fabulous since I started fasting. So I would say that if I am perimenopause, that those things are so slight, I'm not even really recognizing them, which is great compared to what the horror stories I hear.
Yeah, it's bad. I've heard it too, but I must have caught mine in time. I'm 100 years old. I'm 60, but I know that I never had a hot flash.
Yeah, I don't believe I've ever had one. Or if I did, it was so slight, it just didn't register for me.
Right. I mean, it maybe just get too many blankets on. Okay. So you started in the middle of 2020. What was your first, you started Googling, or did you get Jen Stevens' book or Dr. Fung's book? Where'd you go? Because we all need a resource. We all need a Bible, small b, with us to help us look through and go, okay, I'm on the right track.
Yeah, that is exactly what I did. I started Googling and somehow did connect the dots with Jen Stevens' Fast, Feast, Repeat book, not the Delay, Don't Deny.
Yeah.
And I actually ordered it that night, put it on my Kindle, but ordered an actual copy because I like to have both. and started listening to it. And I was like, well, this is simple. Just rip off the Band-Aid and do it because it's not going to work anyway. It did work.
That is so funny.
And really that really was, like you said, my little bee Bible it still is.
Yeah.
And I did read the Obesity Code. I had read it ironically when it first came out.
Really? What interested you in that title? Because it's a tough book to get through because he's so sciencey.
It is, but it's so good. But at the time, I was not ready for it at all. And so I just did not, again, I didn't connect the dots in the same way that I did when I Googled on July 18th, when I was Googling and connected all those dots with like, oh, fasting, Jen Stevens, I can do this. It's easy. It's so simple.
Well, it's simpler if you don't have a 20-hour fast. For you to have a 20-hour fast to start is very ambitious. Were you hungry?
I actually thought, oh, I'll do 16 hours. And when it came to 16 hours, I thought, I'm just going to drink some more water and see if I can make it. And then I kind of got caught up in some stuff. And then it ended up being 20 hours. And my husband, Adam, had no idea what I was doing until about a month in. And then he was like, what is going on? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And decided to fast with
weird religion have you signed up for?
Yeah, exactly. Because I tried a lot of things to lose weight. And I wasn't, like, again, I wasn't trying to lose weight. It just came with what I was doing. So
I remember the most frustrating time for me and as an adult is because I'm the person you don't have to tell twice. Like, you tell me, I got it, I do it. Like, I'm so, it's part of my impulsivity disorder, I'm sure, because I just do it, pull the trigger and do it. So all those years when I would I thought doctors had answers. Now I don't. Mm-hmm. They just look at what prescription to write you. But I remember asking my doctor or a healthcare provider, what can I do to lose weight? I said, I work out, I eat 1,200 calories. And they said, well, just work out more and eat less. I remember doing that. And then I'd come back for a yearly checkup or whatever. And the scale would be the same, or maybe it increased. And I kind of remember feeling judged because you feel like you're not trying, but I was trying and nothing worked. So I know that when I started fasting, I really didn't tell anybody yet because I guess I was like you thinking, oh, this is just silly. I'll just try it. I'll just try it and see what happens. And what did you lose like in that first month?
I was thinking back to that, and I don't recall that I lost a huge amount of weight, though I could probably check on my phone. I have, I like data, so it's probably all in there. I know that by November, so that was the middle of July, I know that by November I was absolutely hooked on the feeling of fasting, and I was absolutely hooked on the fact that I was losing weight without really much effort. Yeah. And so it was not significant. I lost less than a half a pound a week. Is that right? Less than half a pound a week? Because I only lost 35 pounds in 12 months. So it was, it was pretty slow, but I think I lost like 10 pounds within that first couple of months.
How many people do you think are listening now, Beth, that a year ago tried something and they gave up and they never lost weight? Or so in a year's time to lose, anyone listening to say you might lose 35 pounds. I've had clients, they were morbidly obese. Chef Jamie McAfee here in Arkansas lost 90 pounds in about 3 or 4 months because he was so insulin resistant that just reduced. And he's a chef too, so he's in a kitchen all day. And now he does these 3-day fasts in a kitchen preparing delicious Southern delicacies, not eating. I mean, it's very admirable. But the point is, that's why the great thing about fasting is you don't have to sign up under anybody. You don't have to meet in a meeting tomorrow. You don't have to weigh for anybody. You're listening right now. You can start now. Beth started the day she was Googling and you thought, all right, I'll do it.
I mean, I was already going to fast anyway. I was going to bed, right? So just add some hours on the breakfast end of it. It seemed really easy.
Mary Ann Lease, who is on my podcast, and she's been on Graham's podcast too. I think you've done Graham's, right? The Fasting Highway.
Yes. Yeah. I'm super passionate about this. So anybody that asks me or anybody that's excited about
I think
me sharing the story, I want to share it. So sorry to interrupt. But
fasting evangelist, all of us. But Mary Ann Lee, she's an American living in Germany. And it's really such a fascinating story because she had finally gotten to the point where she was morbidly obese. and was either house sitting or waiting on a package or something at somebody's house. It was delayed. By the time she got home, it was 5 or 6 p.m. And don't quote me on the exacts, but this is the ballpark story of it. And she said she got home and thought, I haven't eaten yet all day, because she wasn't going to eat at the friend's house waiting for this package or whatever it was. And she did the same thing. She just Googled. She Googled, what is fasting? Didn't know anything about it. Didn't know the whole network that is intermittent fasting brethren and sisters. And she didn't eat until the next day. And she started with alternate day fasting.
Oh my gosh. I have listened to her podcast, but I'd forgotten that she'd started with alternate day fasting. I just did a little foray into that recently again.
So her story was something like maybe 110 pounds in a year.
Oh my word. That's amazing.
But she needed to lose more. It's like my chef Jamie McAfee. They had more to lose, and she loved alternate day fasting. And Jen Stevens has said it. I've only done it a few times. Because they would say the great thing about it is you don't have to think about what you're going to eat on the days you're not eating.
I know. That's part of the simplicity of this, as just knowing that you don't have to make all of these choices all of the time about what you're going to put into your body. How many calories is that? How big a portion is that? Should I really be eating that? Ugh, it's overwhelming. So it's really nice not to have to worry about that.
Have you done ADF then?
I have actually. In November of 2020, I did my first dipped my toe into the water, and I did sort of a 3 up, 3 down, and then I did like a reset day.
Yeah.
And I because I thought I was on a plateau.
Yes.
Looking back, I was not on a plateau. I just was a little slow at losing, and I didn't want to be that slow. But it kicked in my weight loss again.
It did?
A little bit, yep. Just a little bit. And then I've done it several times on and off since then. Just like if I have a cold, which I rarely get sick, but I get really plugged up here with allergies.
Yeah.
And so I will try and do ADF to see if I can kind of move those allergies through.
That's interesting, because if you're thinking of the science in autophagy, what it does is it upcycles and destroys sick cells. It actually, you eliminate sick cells, and your body's looking, we say kind of a recycling method of the cells. I could see how it would push you into building your immune system and fighting off whatever is ailing you.
Yeah, I decided to do ADF when I got back from a trip, and I was like, why is my head so clogged? That was another time I decided to do it, and my head declogged pretty quickly. And I attribute that to not eating for a full 36, 42 hours.
You would do 3 up days, then 3 down days?
Yeah, every other day. So usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday were my down days. Okay. Tuesday, Thursday,
I thought
Saturday
you meant consecutively, and I was trying to think, that could work, because there is science that says people who followed an overfeeding, and that's what that's called on an up day, down day approach is what we're talking about, that they saw an increase in their metabolism by 7% and in their leptin by 28%. And that was 3 consecutive days. So not that I'm advising that, but that is not a crazy idea for someone to overfeed for 3 days then, because the beauty of overfeeding, which is what an up day is it helps you then get into the days where you're either 0 calories or you're limiting the amount of food that you ingest because you're full. And I always explain to my clients, it's like your gas tank is full, and it clicks when it's full and gas will kind of shoot out. It's if you overfeed, you're kind of full so that your tank can go longer on your reserves. And plus it taps into the fat stores.
Right. I love that analogy. That's the perfect analogy for that. Although we don't pump our own gas here in Oregon, so I'm not very familiar with gas tanky things. Oh, you don't at all?
So I know in New Jersey they don't either. Really?
Yeah, we're the only 2 states. We also don't have sales tax. Just fun facts about Oregon.
I'm moving there. Sheesh.
Well, this is where you should buy your handbags. Coming here.
I have a friend who might disagree with you, but I'm all for e-commerce, and I'm all for people doing businesses with whomever they want to do business. So for sure.
Yes, I do love her. She's amazing to watch, by the way. They are amazing there.
Yes. So mine's the luxury lady I think the luxury lady, because she has several different handles, and I have one of her bags right here right now. But I love that you women, y'all are the only two people I know. I do know there's a girl in Dallas who has it too, but you have actual storefronts, and some people are just e-commerce. So I'm
Yes.
glad. I
Yeah.
love hearing that. But in all this to say, pushing, having too much gas, you said you can see that in the visual in your mind, and then if you have a lot of gas in your tank, then you can go days driving.
Right. And now I have not done a 3-day fast. I'm not sure I would be really thrilled about that, but I have done, I think 48 hours was my longest fast. And one of the things that I struggle with when I'm doing a long fast is there's a point where I'm just like so excited I don't want to eat. So I have to remind myself, okay, I am going to stop at this point and I am going to make myself a really good meal and it's going to be window worthy and I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. So
since your husband, it sounds like he's not clicking and beeping anymore, but does he do intermittent fasting with you?
He did. He started with me on August 18th, actually exactly 1 month after I started. He claims he doesn't see any benefits. He did lose weight and he is much more mellow and he hasn't had back pain forever. So I'm like, I don't think that you're being truthful. I think you've seen some positive things.
Isn't that something, what inflammation does to us?
Oh, I can't believe the kinds of things that I no longer have because I don't have that inflammation anymore. I used to have a pain in my back, both at the top and toward the bottom. Crazy stuff that has gone away.
Now, do you have children?
We do. We have 3 grown children. They're 22, 26, 24, and 22.
So nobody's at home anymore to see that mom and dad don't eat, but for 5 minutes every day, and then they don't have junk in the cupboard anymore. That's what my kids say.
They do know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're always really surprised. My daughter's kind of we're actually reading together the book you just mentioned.
The Why We Get Sick.
Oh. Reading that together. She's my little 24-year-old and she gets migraines too. So she's interested in how she can stop this.
Yeah.
I keep saying fasting and she keeps saying, I don't know.
I know. It seems so extreme to them.
It does sound extreme.
It does. And I did think, when I was first presented to me, I just said, we all know you're supposed to eat 5 or 6 times a day.
Oh my gosh.
Nope, you're not. And that's the one thing that I've really eliminated too. So when I started, mine was 12:30 to 6:30. And I'd never really eaten fast food before, but there was a Wendy's by us. So I had a Wendy's at lunch several times during that because I could eat whatever I wanted. And then I would have a snack and then I would eat again. Now, and Dr. Fung is saying, and Dr. Bickman is saying, stop snacking.
Yeah. I have gotten to that point.
Yes. Eat, stop, eat.
I have gotten to that point finally. We do more what you would consider a restaurant meal. If we do the 4 hours, we'll do an opener and then the dinner, and then we'll do something at the end, berries or fruit berries are fruit. Yeah. Fruit and yogurt or something like that, or the little frozen bars that I like. But the stopping eating is the key.
Have you seen, do you have relatives that you don't see often, or somebody else you see once or twice a year? They go, where's the rest of Beth?
No, well, I don't think so. What has happened, though, is that I will show a picture of what I looked like in 2020 before I started and what I look like today. And people have said, I didn't even realize that you were that inflamed because my face is so inflamed in my before photos. So I have had that experience several times. And then a few times when I very first started, after about 9 months, people kept coming up to me and saying, gosh, you're so vibrant. What is going on? Which was interesting. And I had probably 6 or 7 people at this particular event say that to me. That was weird because I expected people to notice that I'd lost weight, and it wasn't about the weight. They saw some sort of vibrancy that they hadn't seen before. So that was kind of cool.
Well, let's talk about the energy you get because, when you first started, I wasn't dragging those first couple of weeks, but I felt hungry. I remember being hungry and I was ready when my little alarm went off, my little app. I remember being really excited and ready, but I don't know when I switched over to in ketosis with autophagy and burning fat for fuel and feeling my best. I don't know how long that took for me. Do you know when it was for you?
I remember being grumbly the first 4 days.
Yeah,
Grumbly. Period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then I would say probably closer to 6 weeks when I realized this is okay. I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. Just an eating window. It was probably end of August, beginning of September, where I started feeling that way. And then by November, I was like, this is easy. I keep saying easy. It's not, it's simple.
It's simple. That's true.
Because I don't want to use the word easy because there are all these hurdles that you have to get over as far as diet brain goes.
Oh yeah. It's mental.
Mindset.
It's mindset.
Happens. Yeah. So that was hard for me to work through.
Was your other mindset, because I remember a friend of mine saying, Lisa Fisher, how long are you're going to do this? Like, is this a phase? And I went, no. I was like 3 weeks in, I went, I think I'm going to do it forever. She goes, Lisa Fisher, you are not going to do this forever. Well, here we are 6 years later and I am doing it forever. Because didn't you kind of think at first, I'll do this just to lose the weight, then go back?
I didn't, because I was doing it for the migraines. So
that's right. That's right.
If I have to do this for the rest of my life, this is way easier than taking a drug every single day, which is that was the next point I was going to be at, was taking a drug every day, which I was okay with as long as I had not tried everything else. And so I had to try this because, it wasn't going to work. But I had to try it because it was so important to me to find out that whether or not I was going to have to take that drug. And I don't have to take that drug. And I'm just beyond happy about that.
Have you been to your neurologist or your primary care physician who prescribed your migraine medicines?
I do have to say he was fantastic because when I first went to him, he did say, let's try all of these other things. I'm going to go ahead and fill your migraine medication, but go to acupuncture, go to massage, go do physical therapy. He sent me out with physical therapy. So he did a really good job of not just drugs. And I went back to him and I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm fasting. And he said, if that is working, you keep doing it. If it's working, you keep doing it. I haven't had to fill your migraine medication. I'm thrilled. So he was thrilled for me. He didn't ask any questions about it though. So,
is he a neurologist or family or internist?
He's actually just a primary care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know those guys and gals are extremely busy with a million drug reps in their face telling them what they can write next. So their brains may not be, zoned in on the fact that there are things that don't involve a prescription pad.
Right.
And not to say that they are against it, but that is not how they're trained in Western medical schools. We know that. I mean, anyone that graduates from a Western medical school say, well, we're told, oh, this is what hurt. This is the ill. This is the pill. So you just kind of, but it would really, doctors, if you're listening, I can help you. It would really simplify your practice if you gave them Dr. Fung's book or Why We Get Sick and let people, because it's all about ownership, right?
Absolutely.
No one can lose the weight for anybody else. No one can make someone else stop drinking. Same thing.
Exactly the same.
It's about owning it. Me deciding this is what I'm going to do. And we just can't keep our mouth shut because we want to tell everybody. But it would simplify their practice because you know what? They would have, well, maybe that's it. The more people fast, the fewer patients you have. Oh, you don't win the trip to Cabo as much. Okay, never mind.
Oh, no, we figured it out. So I do think that if more people did this, it would be so much less implication on the medical community.
For sure.
I mean, because there are other things that have happened for us besides just losing weight. My list is so long.
It's reversing the medical conditions. My chef, Jamie McAfee, now, I think he's off all of his medicine. I think everything. And because when you're morbidly obese like he was, there was metformin, there were, so something for sugar, something for the inflammation, something, because then he had shoulder pain and then he had knee pain and then he had, and it was pill after pill after pill after pill.
Right.
And just by reducing the amount of hours in the day that he eats, I don't even think he would have a need to see any medical providers yearly like he was, and because when you lose the weight, then the knee pain lessens too, because we know what it does to your joints. And then
Right.
he just goes to an acupuncturist. So
And plus your inflammation has come down so much. So it's not just that hard joint issue. It's definitely inflammation reduction, which I didn't even know that I was so inflamed. When I looked at my old photos, I realized I was. I mean, it was shocking.
yeah, your before and after photo is your Instagram profile pic, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very telling. And I'll put that in the show notes so people can follow. Do you have an open Instagram page, or do you have to accept
That one is.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I started that one because I was talking about fasting all the time because I'm a fasting evangelist. And my husband was like, you've got to stop talking about it. And so I started that Instagram page because I kept talking about it. Even though in the very beginning, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I didn't tell anybody. As a matter of fact, I can remember my husband sitting at the dinner table with my parents, and Adam said, "Oh, she's fasting." And I was like, "Oh, I told my parents. Oh my gosh!" And so that's that. I was outed.
You were,
but it was a good thing. And my parents they're super awesome and very supportive. And so they asked me a little bit about it, and they were like, "Oh, that sounds reasonable."
That sounds reasonable. That is good. That is a glowing recommendation from a mom or dad.
I was surprised.
Had you tried diets in the past?
Oh gosh, everything. I don't know what I can say on here, but
yes, I all of it.
Tried everything. I even tried Nutrisystem, which I don't know if you know this, but they take a little piece of cardboard and they paint it, and that's what they use as food.
I've had it. I know. It's bad.
Yeah, so that didn't even work. So the last thing that I tried before fasting was Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
And keeping track of food is just exhausting. I don't enjoy that at all. I don't miss it.
Plus, having someone else tell you when to stop eating and when to start, you stop eating after you have this many points. Well, who's to say my body may not need that, or my body might need more?
Right.
It's all about listening to your body.
Which we've come so far away from. So it has been really interesting to recognize that over the last 2 years that I've been doing this. It's really a rare thing for us to listen to our bodies and what we really need versus what we think we need or what we're being told we need.
Mm-hmm. Did you do the HCG diet?
That is one I didn't do.
I did it, and it was magical. For the 21 days I was on, it was magical because it worked.
I have heard that it was pretty amazing. But it does work for a short period of time, right?
That's right. As I now understand with Dr. Fung, my leptin circuit wasn't healed. My cholecystokinin, my peptide YY, the things that tell you you're satisfied, that it only worked because the HCG, human corona, blah, 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 whatever the word is, it's the hormone produced during pregnancy that allows mom might skip meals, but the baby will still get fed kind of philosophy. But it doesn't cure. So this is really, Dr. Fung says it best when he says, obesity is not a caloric problem, it's a hormonal problem. Mm-hmm. And it's about your sex hormones are involved, but the main hormones are insulin and the satiety hormones. And if you don't cure them, then you're hungry all the time. Isn't it great that we're never hungry until it's really time to eat?
It's really shocking, to be honest, because after all of the diet mentality and the diet world that I've been in since I gave birth to my last child 22 plus years ago, it's shocking to be able to actually figure that out. Oh my gosh, I am hungry. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not. Mm-hmm. Those things went away and now they're back. And I'm so grateful that they are.
Don't you remember the old Beth that you would get up thinking about what you were going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and how many calories or points or whatever, and how exhausting that was?
I'm so grateful that I don't think about that anymore. Although I'm going to admit something to you that I haven't admitted to anybody else. My last experience with alternate day fasting, I really was doing alternate day fasting. So every other day, I would eat. And then the next day I would fast for the full day. I had been doing it for since November 21st. And I got to a point where every day I was waking up thinking, what am I going to eat? And I realized, oh my gosh, I need to go back to eating in a window of time every day. And as soon as I changed that back to OMAD, what I call OMAD, which is eating in a small window of time, which is,
one meal a day. Yeah. One long meal a day. Yeah.
Yeah. My attitude completely changed. I feel so much better. So it's like I just extended that alternate day fasting a little too long, and that diet mentality started to come back. And what's cool about this is that I was able to recognize it. I'd been in the diet mentality for so long that I don't think that had this happened in a different time frame with a different diet, I don't think I would have ever recognized that. So it was really nice to be able to recognize, oh, I've been doing alternate day fasting too long for myself, because it is all about your journey.
And you you just reiterated what we just said. You were listening to your body.
Yes.
And in diet mentality, you don't, because you listen to your instructor or the person you're paying the money to or the weight trainer at the gym. And they said, I have to eat. They said, I can't eat. And instead, you're listening to Beth. And Beth said, the jig is up. Go back to eating in a daily eating window.
And the cool thing about that, the really cool thing is there's no guilt. There's no guilt attached to that. It's such a simple process. And you do have to listen or it's not going to work.
Do you get on the scale every day?
I do. I like the data of it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I used to, I don't know how you are about weighing, but it used to destroy my day if I was up. And now it's just data. So that has changed significantly with Happy Scale, the Happy Scale app, and weighing myself daily and just knowing I'm going to be in this tiny little window. And if I'm up a little, it'll come off. And if I'm down a little, great.
No, I think I don't weigh often. I sometimes weigh before I start a new Zoom course, because I do mine monthly for people who do group fasting. I sometimes weigh just to make sure I'm still telling the truth when I say I'm 5'8" and 150, but I noticed the other day I was 5'8" and 149. So I'm not going to get back on the scale because I'm in the 140s.
I feel that so much. I totally understand that. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how we bow to the scale as our Lord? When did that happen? I remember in college, I never had a scale. I didn't have a scale for years. Maybe that was my problem. But then once you get a scale, then you start going, oh, did I pee and poop enough? Because I'm about to hop on that sucker.
Exactly.
It's so silly.
It is. It's ridiculous. But I do love that you have community. You had mentioned that you have a group that you do, which I cannot stress enough how important community was for me, finding things like your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much.
And just being with people who are doing very similar things and recognizing that it's your journey. It is specific to you. And just because Lisa Fisher does something, even though her podcast is called Lisa Fisher Said, that particular protocol might not work for you.
That's right.
But another one will. You just have to figure it out.
That's right. So, when I first started, I started in 2017. My son told me about it on a Friday, and he said on Mondays this podcast drops, the Intermittent Fasting podcast it was Jen Stevens and Melanie Avalon at the time. So Monday morning, now I was getting up at 3:45 because I was on the radio then, but Monday morning, I guess my phone must have buzzed me or something. I knew that was the day that I could get more information, because that was my only community then. Because I hadn't told anybody. I mentioned it on the radio about a month in, and I tell it all, right? No secrets with me. So I think I just said I've started this intermittent fasting. I really didn't know much about it to have any authority, but I remember we almost, we quit playing the Whitney Houston rock and roll or whatever she's saying, the music, because people are so interested calling the radio station, going, tell me more. Tell me more.
Wow. Yeah. That's cool.
And I remember, I think that was at the time my boss was like, we're playing music here and everyone's calling in wanting to know about fasting. Because it wasn't a talk show per se. We played music and we talked. We played music and we talked. And people still tell me, I remember when you started it in 2017. That's when I started. Because that was it. I didn't have much community. And then I got Jen's book probably a couple of weeks in. Dr. Fung's book, I got it first at the library. He has like chemical equations and,
Yeah, it's
hard.
heavy.
So then I have all of his stuff on Audible now because I listen. And then if he gets a little sciencey, you can go up about 30 seconds and go up about,
Yeah,
because it
get
is.
fast.
It is.
Talk faster.
Yeah. He's sciencey, but it was good information. And then, and Jen even says that's about when kind of the lid came off and things really opened up about fasting, because there was momentum on social media, but then traditional media started picking it up.
Right.
And that helped.
That's a very cool story. I laugh about this a lot because I have a girlfriend who in 2003, we would have to call each other and tattle. Sorry about my Dell updates there. I don't know if you heard that. My girlfriend and I would have to call each other on the phone to tattle if we had eaten after 6 p.m. at night. So
really, isn't that funny that you had I never thought of a time cutoff. Mine was always calories.
Well, it was one of those things where we were sitting around talking, and I just said, Amber, I swear I just keep gaining weight if I eat after 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And she said, me too. It was just a kind of a ridiculous thing at the time where we were like, okay, if we eat after 6, we're going to go ahead and tattle. And I did not want to have to tattle, and she didn't either. So if we didn't make it home before 6, we just didn't eat.
Really?
So we were fasting without knowing that's what we were doing, because I would get up, get my kids off to school, and then maybe come back and make something for lunch. So I was going from 6 in the evening till noon without realizing what it was. I had no idea that was fasting.
You could have been Jen Stevens. It would have been Beth Anundi said.
Yeah, I could have been the forerunner, but yeah, no dice on that. So,
how long did you do that?
Oh gosh, we probably did it for a good 6 or 7 months. And then we did it again in 2013, 2014. So sometime in there.
So, okay, in 2013, I think is when Michael Mosley on the BBC started talking about time restricted eating, the 5-2 diet, and some other things. Had you heard? See, I didn't hear any of that, or I don't remember any of that chatter.
No, because I had little kids, and honestly, it was about like, I swear I get on the scale the next morning and I weigh 7 pounds more.
Yeah.
And I was blaming it on eating late at night, which is probably somewhat true. But at the time, it was all about making sure I wasn't eating after 6 p.m. Now we might not start till 6, but.
Right. So as Dr. Fung says, now there is some new thoughts in that, and that is Dr. Fung is saying, and Dr. Bickman, now they're saying to eat circadian rhythms, to eat before the sun goes down. Mm-hmm. But that's very challenging. The further north you are, like you are, you're further north than Little Rock, Arkansas, it gets dark, at 5 for you, 5:15 this time of year?
Sometimes, well, I think today might be the longest day of the year, and it might be getting darker even sooner.
This is December 21st. So,
right. So that probably around 4:45.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. That's very difficult if you have an 8 to 5 job.
Yeah.
So so I always tell my clients, if they're November, December, January, February clients, I go, just do what you can. My March clients, March through, October, we have longer hours of sunlight, so it works better. But then the other thing we know too, we used to say, don't eat before bedtime because you can't burn off your calories. And now we know that wasn't true. It was all about your insulin was spiked. And then I think you have more propensity for insulin resistance if you eat later at night, not because of calories, but just because of what your insulin's doing and circadian rhythm.
Yes, I think that's probably very true. It makes more sense to me than calories, that's for sure.
Right.
Although I do still know the calories of so many foods.
You do?
By heart. So, yeah, that's been interesting.
You must be a math person then, since I'm not a math person.
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
No.
See, I don't know any of the...
It's stuck in my head.
Counting for a day, though. And I remember I wrote down 6 Cheez-Its. That's all you could have. Well, now I don't even eat any because it's processed foods. I don't want it. But
which is great.
I was eating processed foods. In fact, in Dr. Bickman's book again today, when I was hearing that chapter, that if you put people on a diet, let's say if we're looking at calories, just round numbers, 2,000 calorie diet. If the 2,000 calorie diet, they were eating whole foods, meaning from nature, as little processing as possible, a baked potato, a steak, broccoli, fruit, and yogurt, as opposed to the person who's eating highly processed meals of Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, whatever, that they eat more. It was 500 calories more a day. In order, they were, they were getting fatter. That group was getting fatter, trying to eat the same amount because satiety signals, remember, that's the cholecystokinin and the leptin
Right.
that tells you you're full. It doesn't work as well with highly processed foods. So calories were being blamed, but it was really the root cause of all this is the processed foods.
Yeah, and I think that the calorie thing, it seems so random. How do you assess what calories really are and how that really works?
That's why they say it's not an exact science. I mean, we know that. We know that now.
Yeah, I wish I'd known this 20 some odd years ago, but.
Right. And I have even interviewed Dr. Anthony Chafee, who's the plant-free MD. He's a carnivore physician, actually a neurosurgeon resident in Australia. He says the amount of calories he eats in a day is insane because he's carnivore, and he said it's a lot more than what other people eat, and he's ripped. I mean, he's an athlete, he's a former rugby player, but it just shows that if you're listening to this podcast, stop counting calories. And I'm sorry that Beth's brain remembers what is the caloric count of each item.
Not each item, just specific ones for some weird reason.
So what were they? Just go ahead and tell me, because other people can relate to that. I just can't.
Oh, I know that eggs are 70 calories. One egg is 70 calories. I don't know why that sticks in my head, but it does. And I know that 3 ounces of meat is probably like 250 calories-ish. So depends on what you're eating, but those things just kind of stuck in my head.
Were you a fat gram counter during that era?
I don't know.
Because I remember not counting them, but I remember my goal was to go to the grocery store and get all fat-free foods. So we had pasta, popcorn, fat-free cookies.
Yum.
So they were horrible. So no protein in anything I've mentioned.
No, I think because I was raising kids at that time, I was just like, whatever is going to work. And so I wasn't even looking at that kind of stuff. I was focused on the calories, which now people say, well, all you're doing is reducing your calorie intake. But that's not true, because I did go back and I calculated. Yeah, because I wondered, because I was keeping track of calories prior to, and I knew that I was about under 1,200 calories a day, which is so minimal. And I went back and tracked, and I'm somewhere between 1,700 and 2,300 calories a day easily on an OMAD protocol. So, yeah, I'm not eating fewer calories, y'all.
Yeah.
Not.
No. I mean, you're not. And we've got to wrap things up. So you've got some handbags to sell. There's a Louis Vuitton that has somebody's name on it, and you've got to sell it.
Absolutely. We have several.
Right. If someone were listening right now, and this is the day they're going to do it, because IF Beth said, what's your advice you give people? How do you tell them to get started?
Well, I like to say rip the Band-Aid off, but I know that's not everybody's exciting thing to do. So not everybody's excited to do that. So my best advice is to try it and just keep going. Don't quit, because there is a way that fasting will work for you. And if you keep track of what's happening to your body, you will recognize that it is working for you and it's working well. You may not be losing weight, but you can figure it out by doing this as a journey of one. This is far better than any other diet or any other exercise plan or combination thereof out there. And it's simple and free.
And when you lose your weight, you'll go to is it Capital Pawn?
Yes.
You'll go to Capital Pawn and you'll reward yourself, not with a Snickers, but with a new Fendi bag.
Absolutely. If you want our website, it's actually Cap Pawn. It's CAPPAWN.
Okay. I'm putting that on there. That's all in show notes. Beth, you're a doll. Thank you for encouraging people. Thank you for telling your story. You are a great representative of our religion, of our fasting religion.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed this, and I appreciate being able to tell my story.
Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.